What's going on, everybody? It's your boy BMSL coming at you live and raw with another video. And I got that Austin energy today. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I can accomplish anything, like 1,000 push-ups or something today. Listen, we got a great topic for you guys. We're going to be talking about how divorce affected my brothers and my sisters and myself as well. Okay? Now, this subject is a little hard to talk about because of divorce is so prevalent in our country today in America, and it's kind of normalized, right? But one thing I want to point out is when there's no father in the house, there's absent structure and discipline. When there's absent structure and discipline, you get things like hanging out in the streets. You get things like not afraid of consequences. You get things like not necessarily paying the light bill on time or the Wi-Fi bill on time and having to ask other people for handouts so that way you can just survive. Now, all of these things happen to me, and I want you guys to realize something. Everyone has different circumstances, and I get it. I'm understanding toward that. But one thing that we don't take into consideration is how it affects the people that did not ask to be here. So we're going to dive into that topic today. But before we do, guys, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. Like I said, I'm going to be dropping videos every single day for the next 30 days. So that way I get used to this and I can figure out what you guys want to see as far as thumbnails and content, okay? Without further ado, let's dive into the video. As you guys know, based on my last video, I grew up in a military household. Very different from everyone else that I know. We had structure, we had discipline, and we had a schedule. We woke up at 6 o'clock. We had a workout, and then my dad was always gone to work, before we woke up. But we had our structure, we had our workouts, then we had our Bible study, then we had breakfast, and then we had school from 8 to 3. After 8 to 3, we would watch the cartoons from 3 to 4, and then we had piano lessons or guitar lessons or singing lessons or something like that. We were always constantly busy. When we were not doing that, we were actually giving speeches, we were competing in spelling bees, and so our life revolved around education and preparing us for the real world to come. And by the age of 15, I was already making my own decisions, working and making sure that I was good, paying insurance even though I wasn't driving, paying for gas, things like that. I already classified myself as an adult, and I moved like an adult because my upbringing was that spectacular. And shout out to my parents for doing that. But when the divorce happened, how it affected me and my sisters and my brothers was something that I could never even fathom. Okay, now all of us, we were born normal. No one had problems. No one has autism. No one had depression, schizophrenia, anything like that. Okay, but now after the divorce that happened in 2005 or 2006, about 5 to 10 years later, these things started showing up more prevalently. Now for me, myself, I got into a lot of trouble because I couldn't respect my mom. I can't respect anyone that, if you're not physically overbearing and I know I can't physically beat you, I'm gonna respect you. But if I know I can physically beat you, I'm not gonna respect you. That's not to say I didn't love my mom. She just couldn't handle me. I'm a man, right? And so there was a lot of things that I did back then that I'm, not really proud of, but I was kind of lashing out now that I think about it, right? Fighting every single day, getting suspended for Slap Ass Friday, and just not giving a fuck. And that showed in my grades, and that showed in everything else in my life, right? And so at the time I was thinking, oh, divorce ain't do nothing to me. I don't really care. They can do whatever they want. But in reality, I was dying on the inside. A part of me died. Something emotional died inside of me, and I can't feel for anyone the same way as I once did. That's not to say I don't have empathy. That's not to say I won't feel bad for anyone. I have sympathy. I still do. But considering my circumstances and how I grew up and what I've been through up until this point in my 28 years, I don't feel bad. I can't feel the same way as I once did because that innocence has been ripped away from me, and I had to live in the real world at a very young age, right? Now, of course, granted, thank God I was prepared for that. But as I was going through that, I was a backpack kid. Right? And what does that mean? A backpack kid just basically means that you lived out of a backpack. And so every other week or every week, what would happen is we would go to each parent's house, right? And so for the first year I lived with my mom, that's when I got into all this trouble. For from 11 or 12 on all the way up to 15, 16, I lived with my dad. And so my last couple years in high school, that's when I would move back with my mom, and we just did it like that. But before then, we were backpack kids, and we had to go to each parent's house every single week, week in and week out. And my life was literally inside of a backpack or a suitcase or wherever we wanted to go, And so the other thing that would happen to us was we would get emotionally manipulated. Okay, so that first year when my parents got divorced, I can remember my mom talking about my dad, and she was just saying all this blasphemous stuff. She was saying that, he was never there for you. He doesn't listen to me. He don't really care. Blah 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 blah. Right? Okay. I mean, I get it. I really wasn't paying attention. I thought I didn't care, but I started feeling myself really accepting that and believing that, right? Until I started seeing the pictures of my dad at my basketball games, and my dad, taking us to Air Force Air shows, and my dad taking us out to dinner and a buffet and stuff like that. Now, keep in mind, guys, we had 7 kids, all under 10 at the time of the divorce, right? 10 or younger, right? And so it was hard for, them to actually make things worth the while. So we innovated. We did things that were not the norm, right? We put on plays and we wrote scripts and everything, and then we performed them for different churches and different events. That was our life, right? But what would happen is she would turn that situation against him, like, he was only doing that because of X, Y, and Z. Of course he was not going to listen to you. That's just how he is. No, he don't care about you. If he did, he would be giving me money for you guys' basketball or track or something like that. But unknown to me, he was already paying child support, right? Now, of course, in the state of Texas, you ain't got to pay alimony, but you do have to pay child support, and he was paying a lot. He was paying a lot in child support for 7 kids, right? And so these things that were happening, not only were we living out of backpacks, but we were getting turned against my dad, okay? And there was no structure in the house at all. And I can remember in 6th grade, going to church and stuff like that, and my mom, she went up there and she was like, I'm just hoping the Lord can provide for us because we can't pay the light bill. What? You can't pay the light bill? Well, hold on. What's going on? So me as a kid wanted to help my mom out, not necessarily knowing the situation. You can't pay the light bill? Okay, cool. I'm going to go out and get a job so I can help pay the light bill. And she's like, no, God will provide for us. God will do this. God will do that. Okay, right? And so an old man came up to us at church and handed us a check so that way we can pay the light bill, right? And so that was a blessing in disguise, but also as I'm older, we kind of already know what that was. Shortly after I came back to live with my mom, certain situations started to pop up. My sisters started to be diagnosed with depression and schizophrenia and bipolar disease and everything like that, when before these things never really happened to us. Now, if you do your research, if you have insurance, which my mom did, if you go into the doctor's office with insurance, you're automatically going to be diagnosed with something. And so I think personally that she was trying to lash out for some attention because she was lacking in that department. Again, we were in a single parent household with no structure, no discipline, no nothing like that. We were staying up until 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and getting up for school, riding the bus, or somebody would drive us to school. We were late. Sometimes we didn't show up, things like that. And these things just started happening more and more often because there was no structure, right? And so these things would rear its ugly head, and we were like, bro, what am I supposed to do? Like, this girl is going crazy. These people are lashing out at me. I don't recognize these people at all because they're not the same people that I grew up with. But it's only natural for these things to progress to this state because kids always deal with these things in a different way. And so I was thinking that everyone's weird, everyone's out to get me. I just need to get out of this environment. So I already made a commitment to myself that, hey, once I turn 18, once I graduate from high school, I'm going to leave and I'm never going to come back. And so what happened was when I turned 18, or before that, I got kicked out of the house because, again, I was moving like an adult. All this responsibility was dumped into my lap and I was already prepared for this. And so I accepted it willingly, what that came with. Even in high school, I was still working pretty much full time, at the job that I had, which was SeaWorld, Six Flags, and all these different places, Santikos, theaters, Casablanca, whatever the case may be, wherever I was working, I was still putting in the work. And I was still doing what I could to provide for myself because I knew no one else was going to do it for me. And still today, that is the case. No one's going to do it for me. I got to do the work for myself, guys. And so I don't want to keep you too long. This is how divorce affects kids. If you've got divorced, or you think about divorce, or you're a kid going through divorce with your parents, guys, listen, you guys got to understand, these things are going to affect you in a different way. How you take that situation and flip it on its head, it's all up to you. Love you guys. I appreciate the support, and I will see you next time. Peace.